we as a charity are all to do with mental health. So our mission, very plainly put, is that we're not going to stop until everyone receives respect and support, and that we believe that there's hope for everyone on their mental health recovery journey.
Get Radio Breakfast with Rich Smith.
Looking forward to catching up with Marcus Hills now from Oxfordshire Mind, the Wellbeing Partnerships Manager. Good morning, Marcus.
Morning, Rich.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm really keen to find out what's happening with Oxfordshire Mind and what initiatives and what you've got coming up across the summer.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. There's, as you might expect, quite a lot kind of going on here, and it sort of depends on who you talk to, because we've all got different sides. My specific remit looks at things like workplace wellbeing. So while there are things that you can absolutely get involved in, like the Oxford Half Marathon this October, I think it's October 15th, my side is more looking at how businesses can support us by using our training. But as an organisation, we have sort of myriad services across the county. So things like housing programs, transitional housing for people coming out of institutions or hospital, things like our hubs, which you may know of across the county. So Whitney, Abingdon, Banbury, and Oxford Central, where you can do things like peer support groups. We as a charity are all to do with mental health. So our mission, very plainly put, is that we're not going to stop until everyone receives respect and support, and that we believe that there's hope for everyone on their mental health recovery journey. So really all the free to access services that we deliver are all around that. Some interesting stats. So I don't want to just rattle off stats. It should really be more of a conversation piece, I suppose.
No, but it's funny. Sometimes though, Marcus, isn't it? The stats are the black and white of the kind of the issues that are happening, and I think no one listening now would ever say that Oxfordshire Mind, they do wonderful things, but those stats are the things that mean that you're there, and and they are important, and you wish that they were smaller or non-existent in some ways.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where, ideally we'll be in a place one day where we don't need charities like Oxfordshire Mind. But yeah, the sad fact is at the minute we really do. I mean, every year we help 20,000 plus people, and specifically within Oxfordshire, there's kind of higher rates of mental health than the average. I think the countrywide stat that everyone talks about is that 1 in 4 people will have an experience of ill mental health, and that 1 in 6 of those, it's something like anxiety or depression, which is, super common. I think what we've seen since the pandemic is that kind of blurring of the line between work and home life, but in a potentially nice way, where work is being identified as a kind of protective factor. So the idea that your workplace can have a really positive impact on your mental health, which, 5-10 years ago kind of wasn't the case. So workplace wellbeing is a fairly new concept around the country. It's something that we've obviously looked at for a while, but I think now we're seeing some real traction. But to talk stats, you get these things like 28%, for example, of all sick days taken put down to mental health, which is kind of staggering, and that's not necessarily information that people put out there. They usually say, I've got a migraine, I've got a headache, or whatever. But as soon as you dig down, it becomes clear that there's kind of more going on there. And I think what we're in my department, what we're pushing for is this idea of culture change within workplaces. So creating a sense of psychological safety that means, you don't have to say, I have a migraine, I can't come into work. You can say, I'm actually struggling a bit today. If you have a formal diagnosis, you can talk about that and know that it's not going to have an impact on your kind of well-being at work and your longer term job prospects. So
I always use a marker point, and it's strange because Get Radio sort of started in the pandemic, and this is when I started talking to lots of people, and we spoke to many charities, we spoke to many people, and lots of things sparked with that. It was an incredibly tough time. We are going through incredibly tough times. You're clearly seeing that. but what, was that pandemic the kind of the spark of going, actually, do you know what, businesses need to take a little bit of responsibility, because look, we all spend 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14 hours a day in these places. They need to start sort of putting these initiatives in place to go, actually, do you know what, stupid things like you need to take a lunch break, you need to go and have a walk outside, you need to have that focal point of chatting to someone if you are not on top form. And you know what, it's okay not to be on top form for the 300 days that you work here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a drum that's been being banged for a while. It's something that we've always thought. It's only really the pandemic that, for a lot of people, for a lot of business owners, made that kind of a bit more apparent and took it away from, well, this is a charity to do with mental health, of course they're saying that, into a world of how do I make it so that these employees who are now working from home and who I don't, actually kind of have that FaceTime with, how do I know that they're doing well? Also, within the kind of incredible world shift that was a global pandemic and that implication on mental health, that has kind of kept the ball rolling. And we as an organization, we didn't shrink during the pandemic where a lot of others did. We kind of kept our doors open. And because of that, saw a lot more people than we perhaps would have done in that same period. I think interactions with our services went up by 400% on that first day of lockdown. So it kind of went on from there. Yeah. But it's by and large, it's a positive conversation, and it's nice that it's moving away from just HR. So I deal with a lot of HR managers and heads of HR who, by dint of the work that they do, have always kept the well-being of their employees and retention as a really high kind of piece of criteria for how well they're doing their job. Because moving into that top level now, into C-suite and directorate, and it's less of trying to convince them, you should be doing this, and more them coming to us and saying, how can we use your services to help? And that's kind of where the training comes in. Things like working well from home, hybrid working courses, things like mental health first aid, how you can train up to be a certified supporter for people around you. It becomes really important. And I think what people are also seeing, so we get a big spike around sort of mental health awareness week, mental health awareness day. And historically that's been can you come in and do a talk, which we absolutely will do. We're all about awareness. But what's really nice in the last couple of years is that it hasn't just stopped at that. So it's now, can you come in and do a talk, but can you perhaps do an enrichment session every month? Come in and do a different topic every time, whether that's bipolar, psychosis, things like eating disorders, really heavy topics. But, the idea is that over time you break down the stigma that is in the workplace, and that you can have open conversations and ultimately get the most out of the teams around you and know that they're in sort of fit shape.
And without sort of giving away all of your training, which is all the point. There's going to be lots of people working in business, or wanting to use your service. Is there one piece of general advice that you can kind of give to everyone this morning? Just that almost like that benchmark that you go, just that's your first step towards a well-being in the workplace.
I think parity of care. So the idea that everyone, no matter what level you are inside an organization, should have equal access to some kind of mental health resource, whether that's through what we call an EAP, so an employee assistance program, or a weekly debrief, or whatever it might be. The same, people at that C-suite level, exec level, will likely have the same pressures as people who are just starting out. I think that's probably my main point would be, everyone has some kind of mental health, whether it's positive mental health or ill mental health, and keeping that in check and knowing that it's to be talked about. It's really important.
No, that's perfect. That's absolutely brilliant. And I know the training will go into lots and lots more detail. If people are sort of listening to this right now, or potentially catching up with it later on social media, where can people sort of find out more about what you do? Maybe, as you say, sort of get you in, link up with businesses, etc., etc.
So there's a couple of ways. You can head to our website, oxfordshiremind.org.uk, and then there's a little tab at the top that says Workplace Wellbeing, Workplace Training. Or you can send an email to traininginquiries@oxfordshiremind.org.uk, and then that basically comes straight to me and my team.
Brilliant stuff. Marcus, has been, as I mentioned at the top of the show, it's always a joy and a pleasure to sort of catch up with charities and the wonderful work they do, ever evolving, ever changing, ever expanding, unfortunately, but continue doing the brilliant stuff that you're doing, and certainly in workplaces, they will see so much of a benefit and with everything that you're kind of doing. So thanks for joining us this morning, Marcus.
Thanks so much for having me, Rich. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Brilliant stuff. That's Marcus Hills, Oxfordshire's Mind Wellbeing Partnerships Manager. And as you say, head over to the Oxfordshire Mind website if you want to find out more details about that.